Yeah, it's the time again. It's time for package from China. So, let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's just awesome that you're tuning in. In this video, we're going to take a close look at a new product. Yep, it's going to be another game box from our friends from China. The question remains, what are we actually getting with this particular product? And the reason saying, there are so many of these freaking things out there, that is absolutely one huge jungle. But for the people who are familiar to the channel, you know there's a lot of similarities when it comes to some of these game boxes. So the first thing I'm going to do is removing all of, let's say, the bubble wrap, because we're going to reuse that. And the tape is going to be in the plastic bin for recycling. Yep, that is how it works with the Wicked, because I love myself recycling. So, the Super Cancel X franchise from Kinhank is returned with the Super Cancel X X3 Pro Edition. I have no idea what happened to my box, but what you're getting actually is the same shenanigans that we have seen many times before. I mean, particularly when you're looking at the 8K Ultra HD, you know. There is no 8K going on when it comes to playing some games. So at this point, they are selling like random, as I say, Android boxes and slapping some Emulate on it. You can just make these things yourself, but again, that is something I always, like most of the time, point out. I don't know actually what happens with this box over here, but let's see if the product is still in good piece. And it's still working. So in the end, inside the box, we're going to get ourselves another box. Yep, that's how they are rolling over there. But inside, we're going to have, so of course, the PlayStation 2 knockoff controllers. And when it comes to these controllers, I'm going to be stop sniffing these things, because most of them, they smell quite chemical. 2 triple batteries with an on and off switch, and both will have their own USB dongle. The reason I'm saying it, because in the previous configuration we had one dongle with 2, let's say, controllers. The overall quality, it's not the best out there. And I mean, particularly when you're looking at the overall, let's say, differences. And of course, like, think about 8-bit, or there's so many better controllers out there for better configuration. And the D-pad, oh boy. Man, it's way too sturdy, and this is not going to be a very comfortable controller to play. Alright, so let's take a close look in here. Oh, that is what happened. I think that's the power supply that basically like stuck through the box. There's nothing of a big of a damage. So in here we're finding the 5V 3 amps. Take consideration that you know, like, that don't really swap them out. Some of the Android boxes will have like a 5V, some will have like a 12V configuration when it comes to power supplies. So in here, I must give them extra kudos. So the manual itself, they do an amazing job when it comes to this, like explaining all kinds of stuff, how it will work and etc. And another thing, let's take a close look at the specs. Let's do it the old school way, and yeah, what you're getting with this is the S905 X3. It's the chipset that we have seen, and for the people who are familiar to these videos, you know where we're going to have in the end. It's going to be overall, let's say, overall performance. Let's say N64, PlayStation Portable is the same shenanigans, but still, I wanted to check it out. How's the overall quality of the case? I think this is just the biggest, let's say, difference. And the case itself, ooh, this thing feels really nice. And I mean, the way how they just, yeah, it just looks nice. It actually feels like a very cool looking, let's say, Android book. Let's say also like a game system, having a legit original on-off switch with not like a weird configuration or not at all. At the side, we even having an OTG port, we're having 3 USB ports and an option for micro USB. At the back we have the SPIF, RJ45, HDMI out, AV out, and the input for the power supply, and we have an option for 2 freaking antennas. And over here we're not going to get anything, but the way how it feels, it got like a very nice feel to it. Yep, absolutely. But when it comes to all of the goodies that we're getting in the inside, it also comes with a 4GB SD and a remote for the Android functionality. And that's actually it. And of course an HDMI cable. It seems to be a very long one, and even also a high-speed one. There's only one SD card inside the, let's say, the box, and the main reason, because they switched to a bigger and better solution, or better. Let's put it this way, in this particular way, we can actually have way more storage. But we'll see it more when it comes to the teardown. So after a minute or so that the system has been booted up, it boots automatically into Emulate and not in the Android part. Okay, so the first thing I've noticed, like the freaking A button of this thing is horrible. But what I can actually play, there is so much different stuff that we can actually play with this. Yeah, for the people already familiar with my videos, the S905 X3 is not really capable of running N64, PlayStation Portable. There are some games, don't get me wrong. And also when it comes, of course, that MAME, we cannot play Killer Instinct, Tekken MAME and all that, let's say, more demanding that we need a PC for. So we do have some limitation, but don't get me wrong, it's pretty damn awesome, because we can still play thousands and thousands different kind of games you can add to this. Think about 8-bit, 16-bit era and the Game Boy Classic. I will mainly focus on the systems like 3DO. This is another system that do struggle a lot on these boxes. Atomic Wave. And you know, I don't want to be super negative, but I just want to clear out what is actually working on this or not. But let's take a close look at the settings menu. Let's talk about the specs and all the other things. If you want to get into the main menu, you just need to press start in the main menu, forgetting this menu itself. Having the Emulation settings, game settings, user interface, but let's start with Emulation. So this display I'm using is in 1080p 60 Hz. Nevertheless, what I wanted to showcase also can show frame rate. I wanted to enable this so we can showcase how good or how bad the game actually runs. So next up, what we're going to have is all kinds of different options like game settings. If you want to change out aspect ratio, most of the time have been set to, let's say, automatic. I would like leave it on that if you don't mess around with it. But you can change out in every single emulator if you want to. And there are a lot of different things you can change out. But if you have let's say, interest in this, you just leave it as is, put it on automatic, and it works like a charm. With different kind of, let's say, themes, having the new Emulation, we're just going to leave it on that. Controller settings, we can map a controller if you want to, and this is a very interesting thing. So if you have set a Bluetooth controller or in USB, like I'm having over here, and you have some messing around with different emulators, it's highly possible that you're having a problem with what controller will be which player. And with this, you can, let's say to the system that like this particular controller, like the Xbox 360 I'm holding now, needs to be player 1, or just leave by default, and it's going to be one big huge mess. Sound settings, over here we can mess around with the music volume in general. Network settings, yeah, with the network setting we do have 2 antennas now, so the network settings are going to be way better than all the previous boxes. System settings, in here I want to check out the version, so this runs on version 4.6. So the user disk, this thing comes with a 500 gigabyte internal storage capacity, so that's so much bigger. It is going to be an old school platter disk. Temperatures are only 33 Celsius, and I can tell you, compare with different models I've checked out, that is absolutely amazing. Because normally these things are just being on fire sometimes, so hot they're getting. But this is just going to be way much better. Unfortunately, this is the S95X3, not the X4, or let's say an other version with more power. And of course, the GPU is the Mali G31. Like I mentioned before, let's take a close look at some Sega Saturn and some other things, and let's see how it will actually run. So let's start with the Dreamcast, if you're going to be booting it up. Of course, with huge capacity, we have so many different games you can add to this. So we have like a big catalog, and I think it's going to be so much more convenient. Okay, so next up, let's just start off with some Sega Dreamcast. And the overall performance with these boxes are becoming so much better. The consideration is just native resolution, because with upscaling, it's absolutely a no-go with these boxes compared with a cheaper mini PC that I've reviewed here on the channel. But okay, so let's take a close look at some gameplay. And I can tell you already, Sega Dreamcast runs just fine. Maybe with some minor hiccups here and there, but Sega Saturn is a system that will be in hit or miss. It's quite interesting to see that we can actually play it on these boxes nowadays. I think it's absolutely a freaking miracle. But you can also check out, and you can just hear and see that the visual part, even with the Panzer Dragoon game, it seems to be working just fine on native resolution. So next up, let's try some Sega Naomi. And we do have the same overall result with the previous system. Like the Sega Dreamcast, we had some minor hiccups, but the overall gameplay seems to be working just fine. Wow, this is actually the first time I've tested on box that we're having soundtracks. You have this feeling that they're actually listening to me. Because it was one of those freaking annoying things that you're getting a device and there were like games on there that had no freaking audio. And with a game like Assault Rigs, this was pretty damn a shame because it's such a cool game with funky music. And let's be honest, the music of the game is the soul of it. But also with PlayStation 1, we have no problem whatsoever. We have reached the point, I think it's like a couple of years ago or something, that we actually can play this without any problem. It's such a lot of fun to enjoy these games. They're native resolution, there's no upscaling possible. That is a downside to these devices, that they are just not powerful enough. I have tested out some mini PCs, like really cheap mini PCs, and they have some amazing, let's say, performance. With PlayStation Portable, by the way, there is no PlayStation 2 whatsoever when it comes to support, so forget about that. We need a mini PC for that. But when looking at the game settings, here have been set to frame skip 2 times. And the reason, of course, God of War isn't a very high demanding game. Every speed up has been enabled that is possible. So load up the game, so we can have a quick load, quick save going on. But I can tell you the overall gameplay of PlayStation Portable is just not here. And with the S905X3, we're just not going to have enough juice to actually play all of these games. You can just see that this runs really horrible. This is not really the way you want to experience some God of War, the chains of kinkiness. But there are actually a lot of cool games on PlayStation Portable that are playable and just fine. But take consideration, we need to mess around with it because we need to set the frame skip off. Come on man, two-dimensional games with frame skip on, it makes this absolutely unplayable. So let's get into this and let's have some fun. And I think this is absolutely amazing. So when we do have a lot of great support for PlayStation Portable when it comes to three-dimensional games, there are still a lot of cool games that can actually play on this. I do wonder what happens if you're going to be upscaling this. So let's say if you're going to be having the frame skip set to off and PlayStation Portable has been set to 3 times. Just for fun, let's see what happens. Yep, see, and that is kind of cool. So if you're going to be tinkering with it, it looks slightly better now. There we go, power up. Oh yeah. Okay, I mentioned before, N64, it's just going to be another hit or miss situation. And I mean particularly when you're looking at some certain games. If you're checking out Cruise in the World, you're actually playing now, this runs okay, to the point that it's just playable. But we're getting into the USA version, they're having a lot of glitches going on, a lot of problems. So I don't want to be too negative and just keep bitching on some things. But take that into consideration, N64, I think it's more interesting to get a mini PC. They cost around $150 now, slap some butters here on it, and you have some overall way better N64 performance you're ever going to get on a machine like this. But again, the games that seem to be running fine, I can really enjoy them on native resolution. Next up, some Return to Fire. And one of my favorite games I've played so much on the PlayStation 1 actually, not on the 3DO. But you can just see on the frames that it runs like 44, 46, sometimes 55. But this is not the way how you really want to experience. So with this S95X3, you should just remove 3DO, because this is not actually the way you just want to play. I want to shoot the freaking tree. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, Atomic Wave is one of those systems that doesn't really want to run well on these game boxes. Another hit or miss situation going on. There are not a lot of great games on this system, or many games released. Doesn't matter. The most of them will run pretty damn bad in my opinion. So that is unfortunate. Is it me or that they also mapped the bot? They completely messed up the button because I can only shoot and jump. I cannot even use my super. So yeah, that's quite messed up. So another Atomic Wave is just one of those systems. Just remove. But next up, let's take a close look at some Mega Drive or Genesis. And yeah, that's the thing. This runs just fine because this is the thing with these, let's say, game boxes. 8-bit, 16-bit, some Game Boy handhelds or other ones that runs just fine on this. But I must say, when you're looking at this box itself, yeah man, it's absolutely massive. 2 huge antennas, that's also a great improvement. Simply because we're having so much better Wi-Fi. Not that we're going to be actually needing this for online play whatsoever. But in the end, it's absolutely great. So let's open it up and do a sneak peek in the inside. So the overall construction of this X3 Pro, I'm just going to be honest, I wish they just did this at the first time they was releasing one of these boxes. Because when this thing doesn't have active cooling, the cooling overall is just great, and this is actually what we're going to be needing. So when you're looking at the first generation that has these very cheap plastic boxes, it was absolutely, some of them were absolutely just horrible. Now they are absolutely learning from their mistakes. The question remains how they are getting this open. Do I need to put a power tool between this, or can I just be removing it? what I was already expecting. Okay, so first of all, so the thing what I love about this, that we can actually have an active drive in this. You can upgrade this with an SSD if you want to. Can I just pull it out? So the hard drive has been assembled with 4 screws in the bottom part. So no, that's not going to be an easy task. So let's remove it from this side. Okay, that gives me a little bit more wiggle room. So another thing I wanted to check out the internal parts. So first of all, when you're looking at it, it's the same construction with the same kind of RAM chip modules and everything else. But of course we're having 2 antennas over here going to the back. Another thing I wanted to see is how is the cooling done. Is there some cooling paste, thermal pads going on when it comes to the other side? Let's remove the 4 screws that holds everything in place. The overall construction has been done very nicely, so there's nothing to complain over there. So let's remove this and let's see if I can lift it out. Or is this going to be a problem? Oh man, this cable comes really in handy. Let's be very gentle with the cables of the Wi-Fi antenna. And let's lift it out. And okay, that's actually the way how they did this. Okay, so that is the thing I wanted to check out. So this is the chip itself. It's indeed an S905X3. But the thing that they actually did is that you can see in thermal paste, it even has the imprint of the chip itself. But it basically makes communicate, or it transfers the heat through this thermal pad. I'm not going to touch it too much, to the part over here. And this top part of the case is basically one passive cooling block, so that it just get the heat transferred from the PCB to the case itself. So, but you have seen the temperatures, it's not absolutely bad at all. So when you're actually looking at this as a PCB over here, so I do have this feeling when you're looking at the sticker that this is just old hardware they're reusing or something, or this is like a really old Android box. But look at this the quality of the sticker. It's just really old. I don't see any production date. I do some information over here, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So we're going to put this back. The other side. Oh man, I'm going to be like messing this up big time. Let's put this thing back in this place. But the weird thing is when you're actually looking on the print over here, it says X4 SATA version 12 2023 0513. So I'm guessing this is absolutely a new kind of a PCB, or I don't know what's going on. It's so weird. When I'm looking at the previous models, it's going to be in repeat when it comes to the specifications. However, when it comes to, let's say, the case itself, I'm quite pleasantly surprised when it comes to this. An on-off switch, enough like USB ports, even the option for an extra micro SD card if you want to. We're not going to be using this, but like plug-and-play solution with a huge 500 GB drive, and you can even put in 2 TB or whatever in it if you want to. And that's one of those key features I'm really liking. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great to see you in the next video.